So hello and welcome to episode 7, and in this episode we're going to be looking at identifiers. So identifiers are the names given to variables, constants, procedures, and functions. Basically anything that is user defined, that is not part of the keywords in pseudocode. It's essentially going to have a variable. It's going to have an identifier. Like for instance, if you're going to store the total price of items that have been purchased by a user, if you want to hold that value into memory, you might actually want to make use of a variable. Then for instance, if you are going to be performing writing programs that need to make use of a constant, like maybe let's say Planck's constant or anything like that, you realize that you would need to define a constant, as it were. Then that constant, to make reference to it, you actually have to have an identifier for it. So it's just a name for that particular constant. So it also goes for procedures as well as for functions. And essentially, you'd remember that we said you can go with camel case or you can go with Pascal case when naming identifiers. Then another important rule to observe when you are working with identifiers is to remember that they can only contain letters. That is to say, capital letters A to Z, as well as small letters A to Z, and digits. Then the important thing to remember also is that in as much as you can use digits, you cannot have your identifier begin with a digit, otherwise it's going to be mistaken for a literal. So you always want to make sure that it's going to have a letter first, then any other numbers that you would want to make use of should come after having placed a letter as the beginning character for your identifier. Then also accented letters and other characters, including the underscore, should never be used for identifiers. For the most part, this is because some of these characters or letters, as it were, are reserved for, or rather are going to be used as operators in pseudocode. So some of them, not all of them. So you'd always want to make sure that there's no confusion in that aspect. So it's always a good idea to make sure to remember that you should pick an identifier that falls inside of this range, right? And also that the numbers that you're going to make use of in your identifiers should come after having had these letters first as the preceding characters. So yeah, that's just about it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.